Hi friends, welcome to my channel Love in Pieces. I'm Suzanne Jones and I appreciate you stopping by. I've got a quick little project craft for us today and hopefully you'll find it useful in your craft room or maybe some other places around your home. What I want to share with you is a project notebook, and this is an example. I found some very cute little notebooks at Dollar Tree. They are 6 by 8 approximately, and they are wonderful ways to store your projects. So if you open them up, they've got a place for date, subject, places for notes, different things that you could include in here. And then they are double-sided, but because the pages are thin, I'm probably going to just use one page per project. And that also gives me a place on the back to kind of come over and add additional notes if I need to. This one is actually covered in paper, and that's what we're going to do today. I feel like I've come to appreciate this style a little bit more. The first one I did, I actually covered with the Dollar Tree stickable wallpaper. Very, very easy. You don't need any other glue or anything to be able to stick it down. I did a couple things differently this first, in that first one. I added a closure, a Velcro closure. That just kind of slows me down anymore. I find myself reaching for this quite often, and so I just want to be able to get into it quickly. I did add a few embellishments on the inside, like a little pocket, and on an original one, I actually put some tabs along the top to help me get to some categories. This is actually the second one. So just some ideas that you could use if you didn't want to do it exactly like we're doing it today. I do want to talk about the binder, the border here, because you'll see it on this one especially. I'm not getting right up against the wire closure because I don't want to interfere with it. When the very first one I made, I used the vinyl wallpaper. I decorated it. I had a medallion in the center. I even put ribbon here to help hide the, hide that black edge of the original cover. And what I found was it began to be too bulky or troublesome to actually write in. I redid it as a smooth surface so that it can lay flat when I'm writing. And even if I double it over and write on it, it's just a nice smooth surface. So I kind of went away from heavy decoration and went more for functionality with this because I was seeing how much I was actually using it. If you have a Cricut, not a Cricut, a cinch machine, you might be able to recreate this book on your own. I did try taking off a cover and putting the wires back, covering the full cover and putting the wires back on. I struggled to get the holes the same size. The wire never really worked smoothly. I do not have a cinch machine, and I just struggled in recreating this wire closure. And I found that by altering the hole size on the sheets inside, it began to make larger holes. They weren't holding securely. And so I stopped trying to mess with the binding and just leave it as it is. If you have a cinch machine, you may want to recreate your own pages or find something. Actually start this from scratch. Great ideas. There's a lot of ways to adjust and go from here. But I'm going to stick with more of this style, which is covered with paper. The original cover is showing a little bit, which I'm fine with. No decorations and no closure. I also did cover the back, the very back piece, but I just covered it in white because I saw that it was getting dirty sitting on my counter and getting glue on it. And so I wanted the front to be pretty, but again, I want the back to be functional. And the only reason I did cover the back is the original covers on the book are fairly flimsy, and so I wanted to add some stability to it. So this is a true version of what I'm going to show you how to make today. And here are the supplies that you're going to need. This is the original, the actual book from the Dollar Tree. Again, the second time I found them, they were in the office supplies section and they were called Notes Organizer. But the first time I found them, they were in the craft section, and I almost positive it said project organizer. But the pages on the inside are the same regardless of which way you find them. As you can see, the front cover is pretty flimsy. That's not going to last very long. And the same way with the back. The back is a nice, pretty plain cover. But again, I just wanted to make it more sturdy. So that's why I'm covering it in white. So you'll need one of these Dollar Tree books if you're going to follow along with my exact pattern. One of these books. You're going to need 2 pieces of, I prefer heavyweight cardstock. And you're going to need one for the back and one for the front. Now, if you don't want to cover the back, you just need 1 piece. But these 2 covers are going to be cut to 8 by 10 inches. I'm using just a white cardstock for my back. And then I've cut decorative paper for the front. So I'm making quite a few. I'm hosting Card Club this month, my local card club. And so these are going to be the giveaway gifts that I hand out to my club members. But you want your covers. You're going to need 2 of them if you're covering the front and the back, and you want them cut at 8 by 10. If you have a directional pattern, you want it to look correct on the 10-inch side. So basically this way, the longest way. This is the way it's going to fit on the book. So if you do have a directional pattern, I think I've got one in here, like this one, you're going to want it to look correct when you're looking at the 10-inch side. So that's the way it's going to be on the front. The other thing you're going to need, again, if you're doing both inside or front and back, is 2 pieces of an inside panel just to cover our seams and stuff on the inside. I'm using plain white because that gives place for people to jot notes or put their own label or, add anything that they want to on the inside. It just increases the writable area. But I'm going to put one in the front and one in the back. And those need to be 9.5 by 5 3/4. And so you can get 2 of them out of a 12 by 12 cardstock. You can only get 1 of the covers out of a 12 by 12, but you could also get it out of an 8.5 by 11. So you don't have to use 12 by 12. That's just what I had and cut down to these dimensions. So I'll leave that there so you can take a screenshot. One day I might get good enough to start actually making project sheets, but in a lot of my other projects, I just share the dimensions. I've not even written them down. So this is an advancement for me. I'm growing, I'm learning. But yeah, there's the materials that we're going to need and the measurements. You're also going to need some glue. I like using tape runner as well. You're going to need a bone folder, of course, whatever you're going to cut the paper with. And that should be it. That should get you through. So let's start on this first one. So I'm going to take my book and open it up where I can kind of isolate the cover. I'm going to start with my directional print. You can see this is the way it's going to go. Now, on the front, because the paper is going to wrap around on these 3 edges, I'm not going to worry about doing a lot of tape on the front side. If I'm using something where an edge is going to show, I like to use my tape runner. And that comes into play right here on this edge. This is going to be a free edge of the paper, and I want to make sure it's caught down really good. So let me turn this where I can get to it. I'm going to use my tear and tape. And if you don't know, you can get this at Dollar Tree. I actually prefer the kind from Dollar Tree. It's really good and sticky, but if I need to, I find I can pull it up from time to time. I'm going to lay a piece of tape right along this edge, not touching those holes, but pretty close to them. Covering as much as I can, but I don't want to interfere with that binder. And stick it down. So there is my piece of tape. Hopefully you can see that. The white against the black. Just almost touching the holes, but I don't want to interfere with it. Okay? Then I'm going to pull up the edge. Pull off my backing piece. Right here. And if you noticed, I got over on this side a little bit. I'm just going to roll that tape up. A little extra tape will not matter. And now I'm going to put down some liquid glue. I'm using the Aleene's Tacky Glue for this because it's a thick glue. It doesn't push out as much. and I find that it doesn't warp the paper as much. I'm going to put glue along these edges, not very close, and through the middle. I'm going to stay away from these corners back here and from my glue tape because that's going to hold on its own. So you can see that I did put a hefty amount of glue, but I want this to really stick good. Now I'm going to come in and lining up the, oh, I lost my measurements. Lining up the 8-inch side of my paper, cut paper, with my edge of the glue tape, and then just centering the rest of it on the cover. I want to cover my glue tape and make sure that it's not sticking out like so. And then now I'm just going to kind of lightly press my paper down, and I'm going to flip it over, okay? So you can see I didn't have a whole lot of ooze there. Another really good tool that I found from Dollar Tree, this came from the beauty section, I believe. I think it's like to increase blood flow to your skin or something. I think you're supposed to roll it on your face. But I love this as a small brayer for my projects. So now I'm going to come in from the back side, and I'm just going to press down with it. It's moving that glue around, helping it kind of spread evenly, getting even pressure. And you see the glue didn't get to the edge. I don't want it to get to come to this edge because that's where it's going to smush out. And that line of tape that I put here will keep it from smushing out on that end, okay? So I'm just going to roll this for a minute, make sure I've got it all kind of smoothed around. And now I'm going to take my bone folder and right along the edge of the original cover, I'm going to score this piece, okay? So right along this edge, and I've got a softer mat that I'm working on. I find that helps when I'm kind of doing this free scoring. You can also try putting a scoreboard under it if you needed to, but I never was able to line it up close enough. I'm just trying to get a crease there to help that paper fold right along that edge so it doesn't crack and it folds right up against the corner of the edge of my project cover. I'm going to come to this end and do the exact same thing. And on the third side. It's almost Halloween, so you can see my Halloween nails. That'll be fun to look at probably in January and February when people may be watching this video. Okay, so now that I've got those scored, I'm going to clip my corners. You can do this a lot of different ways. There's even a tool that you can buy that will help you do this a little bit more smoothly. I bought the tool for thicker and harder to work with pieces, but this is small and thin enough. I think I can do it on my own. I'm going to come in at kind of an angle, aiming at the corner. And just as I almost get to that corner, I'm going to kind of curve out the other side. What I'm doing is leaving just a small amount of paper, and that might actually be a little too much. I'm going to take that down a little bit more. There we go. Just a tiniest bit of paper on that corner to cover it. And then I'm reducing the bulk on the other two sides. I'm going to do that same thing to this other corner. So angle in towards your corner, and just before you get to it, angle back out. You can also miter these corners doing straight cuts. A lot of people do that as well. I've just gotten used to kind of making it in one swoop. Now I'm going to just check my paper, kind of see if I can get it to fold a little bit. I'm going to work carefully with it. This is good quality paper, and so I don't believe it's going to crack on me, but I am going to be kind of careful, and I'm just kind of training it where I want it to go, helping it fold along that edge. If you have really stiff paper, you may have to score it a second time. And then this trick may help you as well. Anytime I do something like this where I'm forcing a thicker paper to fold completely over on itself, I like to add glue right into this channel because one, it's going to help that moisture of the glue will help soften the paper just a little bit to help it fold. But the glue will also help if the paper does crack or the fibers begin to pull apart. The glue can help hold it together. So not a thick amount, just a little dab. Again, I'm still using the Aleene's tacky glue. That's one of my favorites. I like thicker glue for projects like this. So you can see I'm not putting a whole lot. Put a little bit more on this one. Just kind of a bead of glue to help, like I said, soften it and help it hold together on that corner if it does crack. Okay. Then I'm going to add a bead of glue along the tab. And that's going to help it hold down and close. You don't have to go crazy with the glue, but I'm heavy-handed with glue and with ink, so that's just me. So I'm folding these over, and I like to do the biggest end flap last because that's the piece that might get seen the most. And I also allow for a larger overlap on this end because this is the piece that's going to get picked up and handled a lot. And so I just feel like if we make sure we've got a good long piece there, it'll hold better, more longevity for our project. Okay, so we've got that glued down. Again, I'm going to come in with my little mini brayer and run it all along. Because I like, anytime I do liquid glue, I like to use this because I feel like it spreads it out and keeps it from kind of puddling up. Now, I did have a little bit of seepage on this end. This is a trick I learned from watching May Made It. If any of y'all do not know who she is, I encourage you to find her channel. She's amazing. She does a lot of things, folio. I mean, she does everything, but she does a lot of folios and covering books and stuff. I've got a little bit of seepage, and I've got kind of a microfiber cloth. I'm just going to wipe that off. I'm that person that used to just wipe it off with my fingers, and what I find is then I just leave glue fingerprints everywhere. If I will train myself and make myself use the towel, it comes off cleaner and you don't get those glue prints all over everything. Okay, so we've got the front covered, just so you can see how quickly that came together. There's the front. Now let's put in the insert. And again, I'm using white. You could use any color. You could do a lot of things here to decorate. You could put in, something that has a name, place for their name. I'm just keeping it fairly simple with a white insert. Because these are all going to be free edges, I'm now going to take my tear and tape, and I'm going to go, I like starting on the small end, go right along the edge of the paper and put down my glue, my tear and tape, right as close to the edge as I can get, because I want this to be held down as close as possible. I've got this one in, and this is going to go along this back edge, and so I'm going to go ahead and lift this piece of tape up, tuck in my little overhangs if there are any. There's not any over there. And now I'm going to work my way around. Make sure I've got it in camera view here. I'm going to work my way around the rest of the paper, and on the corners I'm going to make sure that my tear and tape overlaps just the slightest little bit. So that way I know all of those corners are tucked down, covered in tape, and they're not going to come loose. It's hard to tell with the white on white, but I'm getting right as close to that edge as I can, okay? When I get to a corner, I like to lift up that corner, just fold that tab back a little bit. That way I can overlap my tape on this end, and I'll show you what we'll do with those tabs in just a second. This is a trick for using tear and tape. I know a lot of people don't like it because they say, you don't have the wiggle time that you do with regular glue or with liquid glue, that once it touches, it's set. But I'm going to show you just a little trick to maybe help you with that. I actually prefer tear and tape over liquid glue. I use liquid glue in projects like this, like I said, for the corners, and then just to help strengthen, because I don't want to put tear and tape over this much of a surface. So again, overlapping my edge just a little bit and bringing this right along the edge of my paper all the way back to this end. And now, let's see, I've lost my pokey tool. There we go. I'm going to lift up, doesn't matter, you just lift up one of the corners or one of the edges of your tear and tape and free it up a little bit. What you've got now are handles, and I'll show you how we're going to use those. Because this is, I'm wanting this to add stability. I find that the liquid glue does stiffen up paper when you use it this way. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to add, I have a place to hold it here, add just some glue on the inside of that tear and tape. That tear and tape's going to create a border so that the glue doesn't smush out and get all over the place, hopefully. And it's going to help kind of adhere all of the paper together and make it stiffer. Now this is the end that goes towards the wire, and that's the end that I took all the piece of tape off. I'm going to flip this over, and now if you notice, I can use my pieces of tape to help hold it. They're going to help lift it up so that it doesn't stick down immediately. And it gives me a second to kind of position things. Let's see if I can scoot that just a little bit more. I like to line up the edge of my inside cover with the edge of the paper that wrapped over, just to kind of give it a cleaner look. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is just line up so that this lines up with those flaps that came over from the front. Now I'm going to push down. I'm going to pull off the rest of my tear and tape. And now I can press down around the edge where that tear and tape was, seal it down, and my glue is in the middle, remember? So now I'm going to take my brayer and just run over the center part and the edge, because this does help the tear and tape stick down really nicely. And it's also helping to crease this outer edge some more as well, making it nice and flat. And then one good run here along the spine where that tear and tape was. Make sure I get it down good. And now we have a nice, flat, smooth, covered front. Very clean, very neat. So once I get the book done, I will put this somewhere and set something heavy on top of it so that it doesn't warp. But if you noticed on my other books, they did not have any warping. Even with quite a bit of liquid glue, which sometimes that's what liquid glue causes, is that warping. So you can, if you put something heavy on it, it'll help keep them smooth while they're drying. Okay, we've got the front done. We're going to do the exact same thing to the back. So I'm going to flip to the back, and we're working on the outside first. I'm going to take a piece of tear and tape and go along the short end as close to the wire as I can get, as close to the holes, but not interfering with it. Okay. Put that down. Smooth it a little bit. And then I'm going to pick it up. Pick that all the way off. If I've got any tape that overhung, I'll just wrap it back up on itself. Now I'm going to come in, get my glue down here, come in with my glue, and I'm going to lay down my glue. It doesn't have to go right up against the edge. If it does, it could smush out, and I just don't like dealing with smushed out glue. So I stay more to the middle. And now I'm going to take my back cover, which I'm using white, and I'm going to line it up with the tear and tape on this side end, the short end, making sure I cover the tear and tape, and then just looking to see that it's balanced. You know, I've kind of got it centered on both sides. Very gently push it down. Don't want to smush my glue out yet. Now that I've got it here, I can run my brayer along, make sure that it makes good contact, spread that glue out. go. I'm going to come in with my bone folder and right along that edge of the cover, I'm going to do a score to help it fold. This paper is a little bit thicker than the front, so I am going to go over it maybe a couple times. It tends to crack on me pretty bad. And if you've got a bone folder that has the two sides, sometimes I find that this point, because it's so narrow, is hard to like stay up against it. This end may actually be easier for you because you have a little bit more to work with. So experiment with each side of your bone folder if you need to. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of give it a trial run. I'm not folding it over because, like I said, this is thicker and it's gonna really need that glue to keep from splitting. Just making sure that it knows where it's supposed to fold. You can even take your bone folder and kind of push from the back side. That can help it as well. But again, I'm not really folding it fully over on itself yet. Now I'm going to clip my corners. Like so. And again, if you've watched anyone make folios, you've probably seen people do more of a miter cut, more of two straighter cuts instead of that rocking motion. That just is usually easier for me because then I don't snip too close with the tip of my scissors. Okay, coming back in, I'm going to lay that little bead of glue. Oops, forgot one thing. No, we don't need that. We don't necessarily need that yet. I almost forgot to put the tape here. Do I need that? I think I am going to go ahead and put it here. Now I'm forgetting if I did that ahead of time or not. I don't need that right now. That's when I put the piece of paper down. You could go ahead and run that piece of tear and tape there to keep it from squishing out, but I didn't do it the first time, and I don't think I've done it since. I think I'm just getting confused trying to do this on camera. So I'm going to run just a little bit of glue right there along that edge. Do the glue shake. Do the glue clean. I might have to get the glue pen. Come on. Okay, I'm going to have to stick a pin in it because it's got a little bit of a clog. That does happen more often with the Aleene's because it is a thicker glue. But man, I sure do. I prefer this glue almost over anything. Plus this bottle's about empty. That's not helping. Now it's coming out. Okay. Before I get a squeeze or squish out of it, I'm going to just wipe some of that up where I know I got too much kind of in the corners. Wipe it onto my towel. Now, bring the paper over, and especially this side that's had the glue set there for a second. When you do that, you'll be able to feel the difference of how much easier it folds over because that glue just helps wet those fibers enough to soften them. Okay. And let's put a little bit of glue on the tab so that it'll stick when we get it rolled over. Again, I like to do both of the sides so that this is a nice smooth fold on this end. Once it's been there a second, I'm going to use my brayer to spread the glue out, help adhere it, and help strengthen that fold. Now, I got a lot of glue squish right there. That was one of the corners that I wiped up a little bit, but apparently I didn't wipe enough. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to wipe up my glue with my towel before I get my fingers in it. Cleans it up so much better, so much better. Okay, so there is our back cover. Now let's do the insert for it. This is where we're going to use the tear and tape. I got myself confused there. And where is my tear and tape? Here we go. It's about to run out as well. Let me just grab a new one. Okay. So I'm going to come along one of the short ends because it's just wide. It doesn't matter which one, but or which side. I'm going to come along my short end and lay down that glue or that tape. Make sure it's stuck, and I'm going to pull off the backer. And again, because these edges are going to be visible and have some wear and tear, I'm going to do tear and tape right along the edge, overlapping that corner just a little bit so I know that the corner is good and covered. There's not like a bare area that won't stick. Press it down and release that corner. Let's get this out of the way for a moment. Along this side. And again, you could add embellishments, you could add closures. You can do whatever you want to with it. I just found that this was such a functional little tool, and I was using it so much that I just wanted it to be pretty, not necessarily decorated. And the first one I did, I ended up putting like different bag designs. I do a lot of 3D projects, maybe more than card making, and I don't do scrapbooking really at all. I do junk journaling and those types of things. So I found that I kind of want a book for each of my different crafts. I crochet, I cross stitch, all the different crafts. But that first one became the book of bags, and I reach for it all the time when I'm needing a quick gift bag. Okay, I've got my little handles going. I've got my opened up tape on that end. I'm going to come in with some glue. Again, I'm not going to get right up against my tape, but kind of close. Hit the middle. We'll bring back over our book. And I'm able to use the little pieces of tape almost like little handles. And just like before, make sure it's down here in camera range, I'm going to line up my edges. Right on this back side, so it creates a nice smooth line. Now, press it down. Don't press too hard in the middle until you've got your tape secured. That way you're not smushing glue everywhere. Once you've got the tape sealed, come in with a brayer and work that glue around. I like to go over the edges because now that that glue has softened that first outside paper, that'll smooth down really well. And then get right up here where my line of tape was. And there you have it. This is now a nice thick cover versus what we had before. It's white. You could add notes to it. You could decorate if you wanted it to. But the front is now nice and pretty. And like I said, you could decorate them. I know that my purple book is for my bags. I know that my green book is going to be for my cross stitch. Just different ways to kind of coordinate what the projects are inside with maybe what the cover looks like, just to help me grab them very quickly. And let's take a look at this one versus the first ones. Again, this is the one that was done with the Dollar Tree wallpaper, stickable wallpaper. Super, super easy to do because you don't have any of the gluing. The only thing that you would glue is the inside piece. And then if you wanted to add pockets to it, you could. That pocket's even coming off. I didn't get it down good. But like I said, the more embellishments and things I added to it, the less functional it became. Even the closure kind of began to slow me down. I found myself not using it, not closing it. So lots of ways to decorate and store your projects, start organizing them. I know many of us keep YouTube playlists and Pinterest lists and maybe even Facebook reel lists of all the things. But from time to time, I find those projects I know I'm going to be going back to, and it just helps me to have them written in a book that I can easily grab when I'm in my craft room. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you come back for some more. And as always, be nice to people and do something creative. Bye.